not because, yes, there's opportunity in Nigeria, but they know that you will leverage on that opportunity and make them money. Like I said before, I also have a spa, and it was just two young girls who decided to come together, put the little money that we had, and when people saw that we're going to just keep doing it regardless of what anybody else said, they said, okay, let's bring 10%, okay, let's bring another 10%, and that's how we were able to raise the capital. They invested in us, and they invested in the fact that they believed that we could actually do it. And I see a lot of young networks. The Harambeans are one. There's another group called Niger DC, which is just young Nigerians from the diaspora who came together, and they're all flooding. They're in Nigeria, they're in government, they're in private sector. Someone just won an Eloy award, Chika Uwais. She's doing amazing things in ICT, which is another sector that we could unlock. There, another young lady, she just decided she's going to teach young women who have businesses or are doing other things how to code.
So even if the Nigerian Export-Import Bank that is supposed to, help in this diversification and provide funding in some way, even if it's not doing as much, you're saying that people can come together in terms of partnerships, and in whatever space they can also contribute in this diversification. Money
doesn't just come from government and banks. When government and banks decide that they're going to lower their interest rates and they're going to come on board, they're going to see it, they're going to invest because we've gone far.
Absolutely.
The only reason that they're investing in other sectors, like definitely a bank will give money to an oil company. A bank may not give money to an agricultural company, and even if they do 9%, I can't compete with my counterparts. I'd rather not take your money, start organically, put my revenue back into my business and grow, than take that money and put myself at risk. But when you see there's an opportunity, you'll jump on board.
Absolutely. Right, so it's interesting that she says so, because precisely one of the things I do with the MBAs at the Lagos Business School during the entrepreneurship session is to ask them to start a business, identify a social problem, and build a profitable business around it. And I only give them 5,000 naira. And I say to them, I don't care how much else you have, because really the truth is, we make a lot of noise about funding, but many great businesses start without money. And I'm not just saying this in theory. So at the end of the day, I have, of course, at first the MBAs are shocked. In fact, to make it worse, I say to them, you're actually going to pay back 10,000 at the end of the period. So the money is not even free. And guess what?
So they double it.
Oh, yes. The best ideas don't even use the 5,000 naira. It's been happening for over 3 years now, and year after year, I find that the ones who make the most money don't even use the 5,000 naira. It's all about ideas. And I could give you specific examples, but just talking more broadly about the Nigerian space, each time we talk about MSMEs, everybody comes up with funding. It's time for us to understand that you need a holistic approach. If you give money to someone who doesn't know what he or she is doing, you won't get the desired outcome.
So we need to talk about reorientation.
And yes, and usually, yes, people, even investors, will always look for a proof of concept before they decide to invest. Just like she said, she started. And then people saw what she was doing, saw that they were doing a good job, and they were more interested in investing because they could see the likelihood of succeeding and getting the returns on their investment. And actually the global trend right now is impact investing, which is for-profit businesses with a social purpose. So it's really about, it's changing the paradigm from either thinking that NGOs are the ones or government should be the ones looking at social problems, while individuals should look out for how to make money. We all say entrepreneurship is the engine of growth, but we need to be careful, because not all forms of entrepreneurship lead to economic development. Okay? The survival entrepreneurs try to survive selling tomatoes and pepper by the roadside, and these people usually don't contribute much to the economy or benefit from the economy. So they are the ones who are socially excluded, and we need to include in the economy in terms of benefiting it more and contributing more to the economy. Now, this is important because this is the root of social crime and terrorism. Even if you get rid of all the terrorists today, if we don't reduce poverty and employment, terrorism will spring up in the next 2 weeks, and maybe even be worse than what you've actually gotten rid of. So we need to see what works. Then we have the opportunity-driven entrepreneurs. These people focus on profits. Many times they make personal wealth at the expense of the national economy and national development. And so if we just think about sponsoring all forms of entrepreneurship, we might not achieve economic growth. Now, the entrepreneurs that actually contribute and accelerate economic development are the impact-driven entrepreneurs, those who make money from solving social problems like her.
Okay, some people
So these are the type of entrepreneurs we need to encourage.
You know, they hear you speak and say, you know, you don't even need 5,000 to start.
Exactly.
You just need ideas. They hear you say you started somewhere, you didn't have to borrow money from anybody, you have partnership, and they're saying, yes, I want to do that. I can fish, I can farm,
Yes.
maybe do fish farming. I want to be able to store my fish, but infrastructure, there's
Good.
no power.
Right. So how is it that a Dangote is growing in leaps and bounds in Nigeria? We're still in the same country. The point is, we have to use what we have to get what we want. There is no perfect situation anywhere in the world. Okay, I've lived in different countries, in the US, in the UK. Well, not lived, but been there quite a bit. You know, in Spain, and I've seen that everywhere has their challenges. But then you find ways to get through. Now, going back to the point you asked before about funding, the thing is, a comprehensive approach requires that we look at entrepreneurship education, help people understand, because even though the African culture is intrinsically entrepreneurial, the migration to white-collar jobs driven by colonialism that told us, you know what, you need to focus. I remember in secondary school and primary school, we were told agriculture was for underdeveloped areas, and if we wanted to emerge, we needed to move into an industrialization and then services. That was the beginning of convincing us that agribusiness was for bush people, primitive people, backward people, and we migrated to the white-collar jobs, to the detriment of our food safety, food sustainability, security rather, right? So we're only just going back to understand, because we realize that we need to depend on them to feed ourselves in a continent where we had always been food secure decades before. So we're not actually moving forward, actually moving back. So the point is, if we're trying to help the, agribusiness really achieve its potential, we need to look at the entire value chain. Entrepreneurship education. Then when people have started doing what they're doing, then we go into funding and then preservation and access to markets. Okay. So we need to do a number of things together for us to achieve the desired outcomes. And as I said, once you start, the funding will come. You don't need to look for funding. Money follows good ideas.
Okay, Dr. Nwogbuze, we'll take a moment. When we come back, we'll be looking at the market, a viable market, and then how the government can tie into all of this. Because right now it's just, Angela is on her own. You're talking about empowering, just educating them. Mr. Bello is out there working his farm, and yes, he worked with the last government. He's hoping this new government will step into it. So creating that market that will buy into all of this together to move us forward. In the course of governance in Nigeria, we've had conversations around export processing zones. I guess that was to encourage everyone to put their hands on deck and get this moving. Okay, export processing. What about enterprise zones? So that these people come together, create their own, whatever they need to get the industries going. Aba, for instance, I'll give you an example. Area Market in Aba, there was a time you get there, there's a line they call shoe line. When you enter there, everything you need for shoes, you find it there. Even the sales and transportation of it is done in that angle. So what about enterprise zones? How can the government help to put this together?
That's an absolutely brilliant question, and that's really what Nigeria needs. I always say it's so funny how everything is yet to be done. There's so much to be done, and yet we have so much unemployment.